Your kid took the missing $12,600 from the safe. Mom's voice thundered through the living room, shaking the glass cabinet. My son, Eli, froze, his small hands clutching his juice box, eyes wide like he'd just been accused of burning down the world. Beside her, my sister Hannah crossed her arms, smirking. We saw him near it, Claire. Don't pretend you don't know how kids are. He's sneaky. I didn't move, didn't defend, didn't feed the fire, because I'd already seen the truth, and the truth doesn't shout. My name is Claire Dawson, I'm 36, and silence is my favorite form of revenge. For weeks, Hannah and her husband, Greg, had been living with Mom, supposedly helping around the house, while secretly using her place as a front for their failing business. I dropped by today because Mom called crying about money gone missing. But when I walked in, the entire family had already gathered, a full-blown courtroom, and my son was the defendant. Hannah glared at me. Say something. He's your kid. Take responsibility. I just stared at Greg, the accountant brother-in-law, who suddenly looked like he couldn't breathe. His hand fidgeted in his pocket. His knee bounced. I have something to show you, I said finally, sliding a small USB drive across the table. Mom blinked. What's that? The security camera you asked me to install last month. It records everything by motion. I thought you'd want to see for yourself. The room went dead quiet. Greg's jaw twitched. Hannah went pale. I plugged it in. The footage started playing. And 5 minutes later, Greg's face turned the color of paper. Because the hands caught on camera weren't Eli's. They were his. Greg's face drained of color, eyes locked on the frozen frame on screen, his own hand, sliding the envelope of cash from Mom's safe and tucking it into his jacket. The room went utterly silent, the only sound the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Mom gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Greg, what is this? He stammered. It's not what it looks like. I was just checking. Checking what? I cut in, my tone calm but slicing through his excuses. The total, the texture of the bills. Hannah turned to him, her voice trembling. You told me Eli was lying. You made me accuse him. Greg stood, pacing, his words collapsing on themselves. I needed it for payroll. I was going to put it back. Like you put back the money from Dad's garage sale? Or the church fundraiser? I asked, crossing my arms. He froze. Mom sank into a chair, tears spilling silently. My God, Greg. Eli was still beside me, clutching my hand. I bent down, brushing his hair gently. See, baby? Truth always finds its way out. Then I turned to my sister, whose face was red, half fury, half humiliation. You wanted to see me humiliated, I said softly. Instead, you watched your husband do it to himself. She didn't answer. I pulled the flash drive from the laptop, pocketed it, and said, You owe my son an apology. But as we left, no one spoke. Not even Mom. Outside, the air was crisp, the sky washed in pale gold. Eli looked up at me and whispered, Mom, are they still family? I smiled sadly. Maybe, but not the kind we go back to. Because sometimes blood doesn't bind, it betrays. 2 days passed, and the fallout was worse than I imagined. Mom called nonstop, her voice a trembling mix of shock and denial. Claire, your sister's devastated. Greg says it was a misunderstanding. He's promised to return every cent. I almost laughed. A misunderstanding? He accused a 10-year-old of theft, Mom. She sighed. He made a mistake. No, I said firmly. He made a choice. That shut her up. I hung up and looked at Eli, sitting cross-legged on the floor, sketching dinosaurs with the same focus he used to survive that room full of adults tearing him apart. His innocence was bruised, but not broken. Later that evening, my doorbell rang. Hannah. Her mascara was smudged, and she held an envelope like it weighed 50 pounds. He's gone, she whispered. Packed up, left this morning. He wired Mom the money back. I nodded. Good. Then this ends here. But she shook her head. No, it doesn't. Mom told everyone it was a mistake on your end, that you set him up to get revenge for something petty. They're saying you edited the footage. I stood still, anger flickering behind my ribs. Of course. When the truth hurts, they rewrite it. Hannah's eyes softened. I didn't defend you. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough, but it was something. When she left, I sat in the dark for a while, the drive still in my pocket, the truth they refused to see. And then I realized something. Maybe I didn't need to clear my name to them anymore. Sometimes peace doesn't come from proving people wrong. It comes from watching their lies collapse under their own weight. And this one was already cracking. By the end of the week, their little cover-up started to unravel. Aunt Ruth called first, voice hushed, like gossip was oxygen. Claire, everyone's talking. Hannah's husband got caught taking money from the firm he worked at. They say it's not the first time. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. So the truth finally walked through the front door, I said quietly. Ruth hesitated. Your mom's furious. She's blaming Hannah now. Says Greg embarrassed the whole family. Typical. The Dawsons never own mistakes. They just reassign them. That night, I sat with Eli on the couch, watching cartoons. He laughed again for the first time in days, the sound light and honest. I realized how much noise guilt had added to my life, how freeing it felt to let it go. Then came the knock. Mom stood at my door, face pale, eyes wet. Can we talk? I opened the door halfway. Is it about Eli? She nodded, voice trembling. I didn't protect him. I didn't protect you. I believed them because it was easier than facing what Greg really was. It was the closest thing to an apology she'd ever given me. Easier doesn't mean right, I said softly. Tears welled in her eyes. You're a better mother than I ever was. The words hit harder than I expected. I stepped aside. Come in, Mom. Inside, she knelt in front of Eli, whispering, I'm sorry, sweetheart. He looked at me, unsure. I nodded, and he hugged her, small arms forgiving faster than grown hearts ever could. As I watched them, I realized something quietly powerful. Forgiveness doesn't erase betrayal. It just means you've stopped letting it live rent-free inside you. And tonight, peace finally had a home again. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like a reset button. Mom was sitting at the table, sipping coffee, her hands trembling slightly. For years, that same kitchen had been a courtroom. Her, the judge, me, the defendant. But today, she looked smaller. Human. I told Hannah everything, she said quietly. About the cameras. About Greg's history with money. She didn't take it well. I sighed. She won't, not yet. Mom nodded. She said you humiliated her. I didn't, I said, setting down Eli's breakfast plate. Greg did. The truth just had better lighting. For a while, we sat in silence. Eli hummed while stacking his pancakes, a little fortress of blueberries and syrup. His laughter cut through the heaviness like sunlight through fog. Mom smiled faintly. He's a good boy. He's resilient, I corrected. That's different. Her eyes glistened. He gets that from you. It wasn't a full redemption, but it was enough to loosen something in my chest. By noon, Hannah called. I didn't want to answer, but I did. Her voice was hoarse. He's gone for good, Claire. Took his things, left a note saying I ruined him. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Not for him, but for her having to finally see. I wish I'd believed you sooner, she whispered. You saw what you were ready to see, I replied. Now you can start over. Without him. Without lies. She was quiet, then said, You know, Eli didn't deserve what I said. I'm sorry. After we hung up, I sat for a long time, tracing the rim of my coffee mug. The circle felt symbolic. Pain, truth, healing, each looping back to the start until it became something new. Not revenge. Not pity. Just closure. And closure, I realized, is the quietest kind of justice. A few weeks later, life began to feel normal again. Or maybe something better than normal. Peaceful. Eli was back to drawing superheroes on every surface he could find. Mom stopped calling every hour out of guilt, and Hannah moved into a small apartment near the lake. One afternoon, While Eli was at school, I dropped by Mom's house. The old tension still lived in the walls, but the energy felt different, lighter somehow. On the dining table sat the old family photo, all of us smiling, frozen in a version of love that had long expired. Mom looked up from sorting bills. "I've decided to sell the house," she said. "Too many ghosts." I nodded. "You'll be happier once you let it go." She smiled faintly. "That's something you've always been better at than me, letting go." As I helped her box up dishes, she paused. "Do you ever think forgiveness makes us weak?" I shook my head. "No. I think pretending doesn't hurt makes us weak. Forgiveness just means you've stopped auditioning for someone else's love." That hit her. She didn't respond, but I saw the truth land in her eyes. Before leaving, she handed me a small velvet pouch. "I found this in the drawer," she said. "Dad's old watch. He wanted Eli to have it one day." I held it for a long time, feeling the weight, not just of time, but of everything we'd survived. Outside, I watched the sun set over the porch where I'd been accused, judged, and betrayed. But this time, I didn't feel bitterness, only gratitude that I'd walked through the fire and somehow come out steady. Maybe healing isn't loud. Maybe it's just standing where you once broke and realizing you're still here. Months rolled by, soft and uneventful, the kind of quiet that once felt foreign but now felt like home. Eli thrived. His teachers called him brilliant and kind, 2 words that wrapped around my heart like armor. He'd stopped asking about Grandma's house or Aunt Hannah. Kids forget details, but not how people make them feel, and I was determined to fill that space with warmth, not wounds. Then one afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Hannah. "Claire, I got a job," she said, breathless. "At an accounting firm downtown. I'm rebuilding." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I'd spent years waiting for her to take accountability, and now she finally was. "I'm proud of you," I said sincerely. "Really?" There was silence on the other end, then a shaky laugh. "You mean that?" "Yeah," I said softly. "It takes courage to start over. I know what that costs." She exhaled. "I'm also in therapy. Mom goes too. You started something, you know. You made us all look at ourselves." Her words hit harder than I expected. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore, but hearing that felt like justice anyway. That weekend, we met at a small cafe by the lake. No cameras, no shouting, no accusations. Just 2 sisters with coffee, awkward smiles, and something that almost felt like peace. When she left, she hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she whispered. I smiled. "I did give up, Hannah. That's how you found yourself." Driving home, the sky was streaked with gold. And for the first time, I realized forgiveness doesn't mean returning to what was. It means giving everyone, including yourself, permission to grow past it. A year later, I stood in my own backyard, fairy lights swaying gently in the evening breeze as laughter filled the air. Eli was turning 11. His friends ran around the garden, chasing balloons and joy like it was endless, and maybe for them it was. Mom and Hannah sat at the picnic table, helping serve cake. No tension, no sharp glances, just quiet understanding. Healing had taken its time, but it had finally arrived in small, human ways. As the candles flickered on Eli's cake, Mom whispered beside me, "I never thought we'd be here again." "Me neither," I said. But sometimes families rebuild, not because they forget, but because they finally remember who they should have protected first. When Eli made his wish and blew out the candles, everyone clapped. I looked at him, the little boy who once stood accused, terrified and silent, now laughing so hard he couldn't breathe. That image alone made every wound worth it. Later, after the guests left and the lights dimmed, Hannah handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, not huge but symbolic. "For Eli's future," she said quietly. "From me. From accountability." I smiled. "You've already given him that." We hugged, no drama, no tears, just peace. That night, when the house fell silent, I stood by the window, watching the moon reflect off the same calm sky that once carried my storms. I whispered to myself. Truth doesn't destroy families, lies do. And mine had finally stopped lying. The world outside was still. My heart, for once, matched it. Because real revenge isn't in exposing others. It's in living a life so healed, they can no longer recognize the person they tried to break.